The fluorescent lights of the courtroom hummed, a dull counterpoint to the frantic buzzing in my ears. My stomach churned, a cold knot twisting tighter with each whispered word, each curious stare. My mother, draped in a faded floral dress, sat across from me, her face a mask of indignant fury. Her lawyer, a man whose suit probably cost more than my rent, leaned in, murmuring something I couldn't hear. I wished I could tune it all out, disappear into the anonymity of the wood-paneled walls, but I couldn't. This was it. The culmination of years of stifled resentment, of being treated not as a daughter, but as an ATM. Olivia Davis, the bailiff's voice cut through the tense silence, and my name echoed in the cavernous room. My lawyer, Ms. Shen, a woman whose calm demeanor I envied intensely, squeezed my hand reassuringly. Just answer the questions honestly. Olivia, we've got this. I nodded, my throat suddenly dry. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. The words felt heavy, loaded with the weight of unspoken truths, of years of bottled-up frustration. The opposing lawyer, Mr. Henderson, a man who exuded an air of smug superiority, approached the stand. He adjusted his tie, the movement a subtle display of power, of control. It made my skin crawl. Miss Davis, he began, his voice dripping with condescension. Let's get right to the point. You are suing your parents for what was it again? Oh yes, emotional distress and financial exploitation, rather dramatic terms. Wouldn't you say? My jaw clenched. 2 years of paying their bills. 2 years of sacrificing my own future to prop up their reckless spending. 2 years of being emotionally berated for not giving enough that wasn't dramatic. That was my life. I find them accurate, I reply, my voice steadier than I expected. Accurate, he scoffed, pacing in front of the jury box. You claim your parents took advantage of you. Isn't it more likely, Ms. Davis, that you are simply a disgruntled daughter, unwilling to accept the responsibilities that come with family? He paused, letting his words hang in the air like a poison cloud. I could feel the jury's eyes on me, assessing, judging. My mother, ever the actress, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, a picture of wounded innocence. I wanted to scream. Mr. Henderson, Ms. Shen interjected, her voice sharp. Please stick to the facts. He waved her off dismissively. Miss Davis, he continued, turning back to me, you claim your parents forced you to support them financially. Yet, you lived in their house rent-free. They provided you with food. Shelter. Isn't that support enough? It was my childhood home, I retorted, my voice rising slightly. And they certainly didn't provide me with anything once I started working. He smirked. Oh, I see. So, when it suits you, it's your childhood home, a place of comfort and security. But when you need to paint yourself as a victim, it becomes a prison, a place of oppression. Which is it, Miss Davis? I took a deep breath, forcing myself to remain calm. It was both. They expected me to contribute financially, while simultaneously treating me like a child, controlling every aspect of my life. They treated me like an ATM, not a daughter. And what, pray tell, prompted this sudden realization? Why now, Miss Davis, why this lawsuit? He stepped closer, his eyes boring into mine. My family's financial irresponsibility is their downfall. I thought, I'm reclaiming my life and leaving them behind. Because, I said, meeting his gaze unflinchingly, I finally reached my breaking point. I cancelled all their Autopay bills before I left. 2 years of paying their bills finally broke me. A ripple of murmurs went through the courtroom. My mother gasped, a dramatic sound that grated on my nerves. Mr. Henderson raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. You cancelled their bills, he repeated slowly, as if tasting the words. Yes, I confirmed, my voice firm. I did. He chuckled, a low, disbelieving sound. And you expect this court to believe that this act of sabotage constitutes grounds for a lawsuit? I expect this court, I said, my voice ringing with newfound confidence, to recognize the years of emotional and financial manipulation I endured. My revenge, letting them face their own mess. I'm reclaiming my life and leaving them behind. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. The jury was leaning forward, captivated. My mother was glaring at me, her face contorted with rage, and Mr. Henderson, for the first time since this ordeal began, looked unsettled. He opened his mouth to speak, but Miss Chen stood up. Objection, Your Honor, she said, her voice calm but firm. The witness has answered the question. The judge, a stern-faced woman with silver hair pulled back into a tight bun, nodded. Sustained. Mr. Henderson looked momentarily flustered. He recovered quickly, however, and with a forced smile, said, Very well, Ms. Davis. We'll continue this fascinating discussion another time. He turned and walked back to his table, his back stiff, his shoulders tense. I knew this was just the beginning. There were still mountains of evidence to present, hours of testimony to endure. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I would finally get justice. The biting November wind whipped around me, stinging my cheeks as I stood shivering on the porch. I was 15, clutching a crumpled acceptance letter in my numb fingers. The prestigious summer program at the Rhode Island School of Design, my dream. It felt unreal. A golden ticket shimmering in my grasp, my heart hammered against my ribs. A frantic bird trapped in a cage. I couldn't wait to tell them. To see their faces light up with pride. Bursting through the front door, I nearly tripped over the overflowing basket of laundry in the hallway. Mom, Dad, I yelled, my voice echoing through the house. The television blared from the living room, a cacophony of canned laughter. My mother emerged, a frown etching itself between her perfectly sculpted eyebrows. Olivia, what is all the commotion? She asked, her voice laced with irritation. Can't you see I'm busy? I got in. I blurted out, thrusting the letter towards her wrist. The summer program. She barely glanced at the paper, snatching it from my hand with a sigh. That's nice, dear, she said, eyes already scanning the room, searching for something. Now, where did I put those coupons? My excitement deflated like a punctured balloon. Mom, this is huge. It's wrist. It's always been my dream. She finally looked at me, a flicker of something akin to interest in her eyes. Yes. Well, dreams are lovely, Olivia, but they don't pay the bills. She handed the letter back to me, the gesture dismissive. Your brother needs new football cleats. His old ones are simply atrocious. My brother, Ethan, sauntered into the room, a smirk playing on his lips. New cleats? He asked, his eyes gleaming. Sweet, Ethan, honey. My mother cooed, ruffling his hair. You'll need the best if you're going to make varsity. A lump formed in my throat. But the program, it costs money. There's tuition and materials and travel expenses. My father walked in, his tie loosened, a weary expression on his face. He grunted a greeting, barely acknowledging my presence. Your sister got into some art program, my mother informed him, her tone suggesting it was a minor inconvenience. Good for her, he mumbled, sinking into the armchair and reaching for the remote. The television volume surged again, drowning out the fragile hope that clung to me. I tried again. Dad, it's really important to me. It could help me get a scholarship for college. He waved his hand dismissively. We'll see. Olivia, Money's tight right now. We just bought a new car, you know. The new car, a sleek, silver convertible my mother had declared essential for her image. An image that seemed to demand constant upkeep, expensive clothes, weekly salon appointments, and a never-ending stream of designer handbags. Ethan, meanwhile, had a brand new phone, the latest gaming console, and a closet overflowing with designer athletic wear. My requests for new art supplies were usually met with a roll of the eyes and a lecture on budgeting. They treated me like an ATM, not a daughter. I thought bitterly, but the program, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I pleaded, my voice trembling. My mother sighed dramatically. Olivia, don't be so melodramatic. You can always go to art school later. Right now, we need to focus on Ethan's future. He's going to be a star athlete. The weight of their indifference pressed down on me, crushing the joy I had felt moments before. The acceptance letter in my hand felt like a cruel joke, a mocking reminder of a dream that would never be realized. I'm going to my room, I mumbled, turning and fleeing before the tears that threatened to spill could betray my disappointment. The slam of my bedroom door echoed through the house, unnoticed, unheard. I collapsed onto my bed, the crumpled letter clutched tight in my fist, the paper digging into my skin, a physical manifestation of the ache in my heart. The muffled sounds of laughter drifted from the living room. Ethan's laughter, fueled by my parents' unwavering support, their blind faith in his potential. My potential, my passion, my dream invisible, discarded, unimportant. I lay there for a long time, the anger simmering beneath the surface of my sadness. It was a familiar anger, a slow-burning resentment that had been building for years. I was the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who always put their needs before my own. I excelled in school, helped around the house, and never asked for much. But it was never enough. I was never enough. 2 years of paying their bills finally broke me, I thought. That day, the seed of something cold and hard began to grow within me, a seed of resolve, a determination to break free from their suffocating expectations and build a life for myself. A life where my dreams mattered, where my voice would finally be heard. My family's financial irresponsibility is their downfall, I muttered to myself, the words a bitter mantra that would echo in my mind for years to come. The acceptance letter, still crumpled in my hand, became a symbol not of a lost opportunity, but of a future yet to be claimed. The courtroom air hung thick, heavy with unspoken resentments. My mother, draped in a borrowed fur coat that reeked of desperation, glared daggers at me. Olivia Davis, she hissed, her voice laced with a venom I'd grown accustomed to. How could you do this to your own family? Even now, she couldn't comprehend the depth of the hurt she'd inflicted. This Karadethishi's lawsuit is ludicrous. My lawyer, Mr. Henderson, squeezed my hand reassuringly. Miss Davis, we'll address your mother's concerns in due course. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, we'd like to introduce another incident demonstrating the plaintiff's long history of financial and emotional exploitation by her family. My revenge, letting them face their own mess. 2 years of paying their bills finally broke me. The courtroom faded into the background as the memory, sharp and painful as shattered glass, consumed me. It was Christmas Eve, 2 years before I finally broke free. The scent of pine needles and cinnamon usually filled the air, a comforting warmth against the December chill. But that year, the air crackled with tension. My sister, Vanessa, preened in front of the mirror, adjusting the diamond necklace that glittered against her throat. It's perfect, Mom, she breathed, twirling to catch the light. Exactly what I wanted. My mother beamed, her face radiating a pride I'd rarely seen directed at me. My darling Vanessa, you deserve the best. She turned to me, a smile vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. Olivia, dear, I'm afraid your gift is a little delayed. There was a mix-up with the order. My heart sank. I'd been saving for months for a new laptop, something that would help me with my freelance writing. I knew money was tight, but I'd contributed more than my fair share to the household expenses, even after losing my job. I managed, trying to hide my disappointment. That's okay. I understand. Don't be silly. Olivia, Vanessa chimed in, a voice dripping with faux sympathy. You can use my old one. I mean, it's practically vintage now. But I'm sure it still works somewhat. She tossed her hair, a cascade of perfectly styled blonde waves, and smirked. The sting of her words was sharper than any slap. Her old laptop was a top-of-the-line model, barely a year old, a stark contrast to my clunky 5-year-old machine that barely held a charge. They treated me like an ATM, not a daughter. Dinner was a strained affair. Vanessa regaled everyone with tales of her upcoming ski trip, a gift from our parents, while I picked at my food, the lump in my throat growing with each bite. After dinner, we gathered around the tree to open presents. Vanessa's pile dwarfed mine. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, the latest gadgets, a testament to my parents' blind adoration. My delayed gift never materialized. Later that evening, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I heard muffled voices from the living room. Curiosity, or perhaps a masochistic desire to confirm my suspicions, drew me downstairs. I peeked around the corner and saw my mother and Vanessa huddled together, whispering conspiratorially. She doesn't suspect a thing, Vanessa giggled. Of course not, my mother replied, her voice low and smug. She's so naive. I strained to hear more. The laptop. I caught snippets of their conversation. Said it was for Olivia. Actually for Vanessa. Upgrade. Olivia can keep using the old one. My blood ran cold. The mix-up wasn't a mix-up at all. They had deliberately lied to me. They had used my money, the money I'd scraped together, to buy Vanessa a new laptop, while pretending mine was simply delayed. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just about the laptop anymore. It was about the years of subtle slights, the constant favoritism, the blatant disregard for my feelings. I cancelled all their Autopay bills before I left. I crept back upstairs. The Christmas spirit, already fragile, now completely shattered. I locked myself in my room, the tears finally coming, hot and angry. That night, something inside me snapped. I was done being the family doormat. I was done being the invisible daughter. I would not let them continue to use and manipulate me. A seed of resentment, planted long ago, began to take root, growing into a fierce determination to reclaim my life and my dignity. Back in the courtroom, I took a deep breath. The memory still raw, the pain still palpable. They used my money, I said, my voice trembling slightly, to buy my sister a laptop, while pretending mine was delayed. I looked directly at my mother, my gaze unwavering. That was the night I decided things had to change. Mr. Henderson stepped forward. Your Honor, this is just one example of the systematic emotional and financial abuse Ms. Davis endured. We intend to demonstrate how this pattern of behavior continued, ultimately leading to the events that brought us here today. My mother's face contorted in rage. Lies. All lies, she shrieked. But I knew the truth, and soon everyone else would too. The fluorescent lights of the courtroom hummed, a dull counterpoint to the frantic thumping of my heart. My palms were slick with sweat, and I gripped the edges of the witness stand. The polish was a small comfort in the echoing vastness of the room. My lawyer, Ms. Hernandez, gave me a small, encouraging nod. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Ms. Davis, the opposing counsel, Mr. Caldwell, a man whose smugness seemed permanently etched onto his face, began, his voice dripping with condescension. You claim your family has been financially irresponsible. Isn't it true that you willingly paid their bills for 2 years? Yes, I reply, my voice steadier than I expected. I did, and you didn't complain. You didn't protest. He paced in front of me like a predator circling its prey. I tried to talk to them, I said, meeting his gaze repeatedly. I begged them to budget, to cut back, but they just ignored me. They treated me like an ATM, not a daughter. He scoffed. An ATM? Isn't that a bit dramatic, Ms. Davis? Dramatic, Mr. Caldwell. They drained my savings account. They maxed out my credit cards. They took everything I had. My voice cracked slightly, the raw emotion threatening to overwhelm me. 2 years of paying their bills finally broke me. So, you decided to teach them a lesson. He smirked, clearly thinking he had me cornered. By cancelling all their Autopay bills before I left, I stopped enabling their destructive behavior. I corrected him, my voice firm. My revenge, letting them face their own mess, Mr. Caldwell's smirk widened. And you expect the court to believe that this love approach justifies your actions? He gestured dismissively. You left your family in financial ruin, Ms. Davis. That's not tough love. That's abandonment. The courtroom felt stifling, the air thick with judgment. My family, seated in the front row, stared at me with a mixture of resentment and something else, fear. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, a usual dramatic flair amplified for the courtroom audience. My father avoided my gaze, his face a mask of stony indifference. Even my brother, usually so quick with a sarcastic remark, remained silent. Seeing them like this, a small part of me, the part that still remembered family dinners and holiday traditions, ached. But I pushed it down. I had to. I had come too far to back down now. Miss Davis, Mr. Caldwell continued, his voice sharp. Do you have any evidence to support your claims of financial irresponsibility? Anything beyond your own subjective feelings? My heart pounded against my ribs. This was it, the moment of truth. I took a deep breath and said, yes, I do. A hush fell over the courtroom. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to hold their breath. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick folder. It contained bank statements, credit card bills, loan applications, all meticulously documented evidence of my family's reckless spending habits. I handed the folder to Ms. Hernandez, who in turn passed it to the judge. The judge, a stern-faced woman with silver hair pulled back into a tight bun, flipped through the documents, her expression unreadable. The silence in the courtroom stretched, each tick of the clock echoing like a gunshot. Finally, the judge looked up. Ms. Davis, she said, her voice calm and measured. These documents appear to substantiate your claims. However, she continued, and my stomach dropped, they don't tell the whole story. Mr. Caldwell is right. You did abandon your family, and while their financial irresponsibility may have contributed to their current situation, your actions ultimately exacerbated it. My breath ached. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Had I miscalculated? Had I played right into their hands? Mr. Caldwell's smirk returned wider than ever. I believe the plaintiff's case is clear, Your Honor, he said smoothly. Just then, a voice rang out from the back of the courtroom. Objection. Everyone turned to see a young man standing near the entrance. He was dressed in a crisp suit, his dark hair neatly combed, a briefcase clutched in his hand. He looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't quite place him. Who are you? The judge asked, her voice laced with annoyance. My name is Daniel Parker, Your Honor, he said, stepping forward. I'm a financial advisor. And what is the nature of your objection, Mr. Parker? He turned to me, his gaze steady. I'm here to testify on behalf of Ms. Davis. My mind raced. Daniel Parker suddenly, It clicked. He was the intern who had worked at my old accounting firm years ago. I had mentored him briefly, helped him navigate the complexities of the financial world. I hadn't seen him since I left the firm. "Mr. Parker," Mr. Caldwell interjected, his voice tight with suspicion. "What exactly do you intend to testify about?" Daniel addressed the judge again. "Your Honor, I have intimate knowledge of the Davis family's finances. I've been reviewing their records for the past several months, at Ms. Davis's request." He then turned to me and said, "Olivia, do you remember that time we were working on the Peterson account, and you discovered that Mr. Peterson was embezzling funds from his company?" I nodded, a memory flashing through my mind. I had spent weeks painstakingly poring over Mr. Peterson's financial records, uncovering a complex web of shell corporations and offshore accounts. It had been a grueling, exhausting process, but in the end, I had exposed his fraud and saved the company millions of dollars. Daniel turned back to the judge. "Olivia has a remarkable talent for uncovering financial discrepancies," he said. "And she's applied that same meticulous attention to detail to her own family's finances. She's not only documented their reckless spending, but she's also uncovered a pattern offshore, we say. Creative accounting." My heart leapt. This was it. The twist I had been waiting for. Mr. Caldwell's face paled. "Your Honor, this is absurd. Mr. Parker's testimony is irrelevant and prejudicial." The judge, however, seemed intrigued. "Mr. Parker," she said, "please elaborate on this creative accounting." Daniel opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. "These are copies of the Davis family's tax returns for the past 5 years," he explained. "Upon closer examination, I discovered a series of irregularities." He pointed to a specific line on one of the returns. "Here, for example, they claimed a deduction for business expenses related to a dog grooming business. A business that, to my knowledge, never existed." A ripple of murmurs went through the courtroom. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My father's face turned a shade of purple. My brother just stared straight ahead, his eyes wide. Daniel continued, pointing out other discrepancies, inconsistencies, and outright fabrications. With each revelation, the tension in the courtroom ratcheted up another notch. I watched as the smugness slowly drained from Mr. Caldwell's face, replaced by a look of dawning horror. He knew, just as I did, that this was just the beginning. The gavel slammed down, echoing in the hushed courtroom. "All rise," the bailiff called, his voice a low rumble. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence. Judge Mallory, her face impassive, looked down at the papers spread before her. My lawyer, Ms. Hernandez, squeezed my hand reassuringly. "It's almost over, Olivia," she murmured. "Over 2 years. 2 years since I'd walked out, cancelled all their Autopay bills before I left, and severed ties with the family that had treated me like an ATM, not a daughter. 2 years of rebuilding my life, brick by painstaking brick, while they spiraled into the financial mess they created. My revenge, letting them face their own mess. In the matter of Davis versus Davis," Judge Mallory began, her voice clear and sharp, "the court has reached a verdict." My breath hitched. I could feel my parents' eyes boring into me, a mixture of resentment and fear swirling within their gaze. My brother, Mark, sat slumped in his chair, his usual swagger replaced by a dull apathy. "The court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Olivia Davis," Judge Mallory declared. A wave of relief washed over me, so intense I almost swayed on my feet. Ms. Hernandez patted my hand, a small, triumphant smile playing on her lips. "Based on the evidence presented," the judge continued, "it is clear that the defendant, Richard Davis, coerced the plaintiff into assuming financial responsibility for the family's debts under duress. Furthermore, the court recognizes the emotional and psychological manipulation inflicted upon the plaintiff by the defendants, Richard and Susan Davis, leading to her financial exploitation. My parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Their faces, usually so carefully composed, now contorted with anger and disbelief. The court orders the defendants to repay the plaintiff the sum of $75,000, representing the total amount of the misappropriated funds. The amount was more than I had dared to hope for. It was enough to finally put this nightmare behind me, to secure my future. But the judge wasn't finished. Additionally, she said, her voice taking on a steely edge, the court has reviewed the evidence pertaining to the contested will of Eleanor Davis, the grandmother of the plaintiff, my grandmother, the one person in that family who had truly loved me, who had seen through the charade. The will, Judge Murray declared, clearly stipulates that the entirety of Eleanor Davis's estate, including the family home and all associated assets, is to be bequeathed to her granddaughter, Olivia Davis. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. My mother's face crumpled. My father's jaw clenched so tightly I thought it might shatter. My grandmother's house, the house I'd grown up in, the house filled with memories, both good and bad. They had tried to steal it from me, just like they had tried to steal everything else. They had claimed she was senile, that she hadn't understood what she was doing when she changed her will, leaving everything to me. But I knew better. Grandma had been sharper than any of them, right up until the end. She had seen their greed, their manipulation, and she had made sure I was protected. Furthermore, Judge Murray continued, her gaze sweeping over my family. The court has been made aware of certain irregularities in the defendant's financial dealings, specifically relating to fraudulent loan applications and tax evasion. My heart pounded in my chest. This was it. The final piece of the puzzle. These matters, the judge said, will be referred to the appropriate authorities for further investigation. I saw the blood drain from my parents' faces. They knew what was coming. The years of lies, of manipulation, of living beyond their means, were finally catching up to them. My brother, Mark, stared blankly ahead, his face ashen. I turned to Ms. Hernandez, my voice barely above a whisper. How did you? She smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. Remember those boxes of old documents you gave me, the ones you found in your grandmother's attic? I nodded, my mind racing. I had almost forgotten about them. Boxes filled with old letters, bills, bank statements, a lifetime of accumulated paperwork. There were some interesting items among them. Ms. Hernandez continued, her voice low. Letters from your parents to your grandmother, pleading for money. Bank statements showing suspicious transactions, and a copy of a letter your grandmother wrote to her lawyer, detailing her concerns about your parents' behavior and her intentions to change her will. My grandmother, even in death, she was protecting me. She had left a trail of breadcrumbs, a roadmap to justice. I closed my eyes, a single tear rolling down my cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness, but of relief, of vindication. This court is adjourned, Judge Murray declared, bringing the gavel down with a resounding crack. The sound reverberated through the room, a final punctuation mark on this chapter of my life. I stood up, my legs feeling shaky but strong. I had won. I had reclaimed my life, my dignity, my future. I was free. As I walked out of the courtroom, I glanced back at my family. They sat huddled together, their faces etched with defeat and despair. I felt the pang of something not quite pity, but perhaps a sense of closure. I'm reclaiming my life and leaving them behind. They had made their choices, and now they were facing the consequences. My revenge was complete. It wasn't the kind of revenge fueled by anger or hatred, but by a quiet, unwavering determination to reclaim what was rightfully mine. And I had succeeded. The silence that followed, broken only by the shuffling of feet and the hushed whispers of the courtroom, felt like the sweetest victory of all.